130 fast attack boats. In the water, in formation, visible from orbit, not hidden in coastal coves, not dispersed across the concealed inlets the IRGC has used throughout this conflict to deny American satellites a clean targeting picture. Right there, near Qeshm Island and the Rock Islands, two massive coordinated formations confirmed by Sentinel-2 satellite imagery dropped this morning, May 10, 2026, 71 days into this war. And Iran just showed its hand in the most public naval display it has produced since the first shot was fired. This is the visual statement the IRGC chose to make today. This is Iran's current threat position, and the response from the American side came within the same hour. CENTCOM released its own imagery simultaneously. F-16 Vipers flying active sorties in and around the Strait of Hormuz, FA-18 Super Hornets on combat air patrol off 3 carrier decks, the Abraham Lincoln, the George H.W. Bush, the Gerald R. Ford, 3 carrier strike groups operating together. The largest concentration of American naval aviation the Persian Gulf has ever seen, H-64 Apache attack helicopters in the air over the strait. The same Apaches that CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper personally flew over the strait on May 3rd, before Project Freedom launched. The same Apaches that sent the first wave of IRGC fast attack boats to the bottom on that same day. Iran shows its fleet. America shows what answers it. 2 image releases. Same morning. Same strait. That is not coincidence. That is the visual language of a conflict that is not ended, and whose participants are now talking to each other in satellite imagery rather than through diplomatic back channels. Understand what those 130 boats actually represent. The IRGC did not produce them from nowhere. These are the survivors, the remnants of a mosquito fleet that has absorbed losses through every engagement across 71 days of combat. Iran entered this conflict with over 160 naval vessels. That number is gone. The frigates are gone. The corvettes are gone. The conventional naval architecture capable of contesting American destroyer operations in the deep water of the Arabian Sea has been systematically eliminated. What remains is the Mosquito fleet, 130 fast attack boats. That is the surviving asymmetric capability of an institution whose conventional naval power has been erased. The formation near Qeshm is simultaneously a deterrence display and a confession. It says this is what is left. That is not a minor detail. That is the operational reality embedded inside the morning's imagery. Do not dismiss the boats. That would be a strategic error. These platforms run 60 to 75 feet in length, diesel-powered, capable of 50 to 60 knots in the confined water of the strait, faster than any American destroyer in that environment, armed with 107mm rockets, 12.7mm heavy machine guns, and 23mm autocannons. Select variants carry the C-802 anti-ship missile. Chinese design origins. Sea skimming. Subsonic. Approximately 100 kilometers of range. A 160-kilogram warhead. The C-802 is a genuine ship killer. Coastal launch sites firing C-802s at American vessels have been struck in recent operations. But the boat-launched variant is still in the inventory of the formation Sentinel-2 documented this morning. The swarm doctrine is the threat, not a single concentrated approach from one direction. Multiple formations, simultaneous vectors, different compass points arriving at the same target at the same time. That geometry forces defensive systems to engage threats that interfere with each other's intercept solutions. Neutralizing one opens the window for another closing from a different angle. The IRGC knows its boats cannot defeat American destroyers in a straight fight. The swarm was never designed for that. It was designed to overwhelm point defense through volume and vector diversity. That is the doctrine. That is what 130 boats in formation is communicating this morning. Now examine the American answer. It begins before the boats reach engagement range. It begins with the detection layer. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye is the airborne early warning platform, whose radar builds the integrated surface and air picture that coordinates the entire response. It tracks the boats from the moment they move. It assigns specific platforms to specific engagement sectors before anything closes to weapons range. It operates above the operational horizon. It sees everything in the strait simultaneously. It feeds every platform in the network through Link 16 data architecture. The E2D is not visible from the surface. The boats do not see it, but it sees the boats. That asymmetry is the foundation of the entire defensive response. This is where the balance shifts. Iran brings numbers and speed. America brings a network kill chain that sees the threat before the threat can act. The F-35s bring the APG-81 active, electronically scanned array radar. It tracks multiple surface targets simultaneously. It shares targeting data with every platform in the network without revealing the aircraft's own position. The F-35 sees the boats. The boats cannot see the F-35. That data flows to F-15E Strike Eagles, F-16S and AH-64 Apaches through the same Link 16 architecture. Every platform in the response network operates from a composite picture built from every sensor in the network. The RQ-4 Global Hawk adds the persistent ISR layer that manned aircraft cannot sustain. It maintains continuous orbit over the strait for hours. It provides unbroken surveillance track when fast attack boats use islands and coastal terrain to break line of sight with surface sensors. The engagement methodology divides the strait into geographic sectors, each sector assigned to specific platforms optimized for that threat density. A boat crossing from one sector gets engaged by the platform owning the new sector. No overlap, no wasted ordnance, no unengaged threats. This is a kill chain that was planned, rehearsed, and partially executed already on May 3rd. That is not theory. That is operational record. The A-10 Thunderbolt II is the platform every fast attack boat operator needs to calculate against this morning. The GAU-8 Avenger, a 30mm 7-barrel Gatling cannon, depleted uranium penetrator rounds, 3,900 rounds per minute, a fiberglass fast attack boat, absorbing a burst from the GAU-8 does not continue its attack run. The A-10 flies slow, flies low, and loiters. Probe and drogue aerial refueling from C-130 Hercules tankers extends its time over the strait for the duration of a sustained swarm engagement. It is designed to absorb battle damage and keep fighting. Its characteristics are specifically matched to the threat profile that 130 boats represent. The AH-64 Apache pairs with the A-10 as the maritime boat engagement combination, whose effectiveness the May 3rd record has already documented. Apache Hellfire missiles engage boats at ranges where the boat's weapons cannot reach the helicopter. The helmet-mounted targeting system acquires fast-moving targets in the confined strait geometry faster than fixed-forward weapons on higher-performance jets allow. The 5-inch guns on Arleigh Burke-class destroyers handle boats that close to surface combatant range. The Mk-45 naval gun system at 16 miles of range delivers sustained fire against maneuvering surface targets that missile systems are not optimized to engage. The defensive architecture is layered, networked, and already combat tested in this theater. The boats know this. They were there on May 3rd. The most consequential American response option is the one that never requires the boats to enter operational water. Strike the coastal staging infrastructure before the launch order is given. The GBU-72, 5,000 pounds, bunker-busting penetrator, already used in this conflict against hardened coastal anti-ship missile sites along the Iranian coastline. Apply that same capability to the coves and staging areas coordinating fast attack boat swarms, and the problem is addressed at its source. A boat destroyed in its cove before its crew receives a launch order is not participating in a swarm. A command node eliminated before it can coordinate a simultaneous multi-vector approach is not organizing the saturation attack. This is the specific option the morning's imagery has made most operationally visible. The IRGC publicly released the coordinates of its 130-boat formation. Those coordinates are now in the targeting picture of every ISR platform in the American network. The locations near Qeshm and the Rock Islands where those formations assembled are documented in the public satellite record. The option to strike those positions before the boats disperse into swarm geometry sits on the planning table right now. F-16 Wild Weasels, F-35S, and B-1B Lancers operating in this theater can execute that option. The IRGC released its own targeting data this morning. That is not a deterrence success. That is a consequential intelligence gift to the side it was meant to deter. The name appearing alongside the 130-boat formation in the intelligence picture this morning is one Western coverage has not placed prominently enough. Brigadier General Mustafa Salami, older brother of Hussein Salami, the IRGC commander-in-chief killed in Israeli strikes in June 2025. Hussein Salami was the institutional face, the speeches, the threats, the high-visibility propaganda function that required someone of commander-in-chief authority to deliver. Mustafa is the operational opposite. Near invisible public profile, rare media appearances, no propaganda role, regular Iranian army, not IRGC. A veteran of the Iran-Iraq War, currently serving as senior advisor to the Chief of General Staff of Operations. A bridging figure between the regular army and IRGC joint military operations. The man moving between those institutional boundaries at the exact moment when the IRGC's internal power struggle is producing the fractures the public record has documented is worth understanding precisely because his low profile is the profile of someone doing actual operational planning. That distinction matters more than his rank. Someone inside the Iranian military authorized this morning's public release of the formation imagery. That decision reflects a specific institutional calculation. This is deterrence communication, not operational preparation for imminent attack. An institution preparing to strike does not broadcast its force disposition in publicly available satellite imagery. This is a bargaining chip displayed through military posture rather than diplomatic back channels. The message is direct. We have this, we are willing to use this. If Project Freedom resumes in expanded form, this is what responds. The CENTCOM response imagery delivers the counter message with equal directness. The display has not produced the deterrent effect it was designed to generate. That is the entire strategic exchange of May 10th compressed into 2 image releases, each side showing the other exactly where it stands. Mustafa Salami's bridging position carries a specific intelligence significance that goes deeper than his rank. The Iran-Iraq War veterans forming the senior leadership of Iran's regular army carry an institutional memory that includes 1988, the moment Khomeini called accepting the ceasefire, drinking poison, and accepted it anyway because the operational reality made continuation impossible. They know what that moment feels like from inside a fighting institution forced to stop. Mustafa Salami understands both the operational reality that 130 boats represent, and the historical memory of what happens when an Iranian military continues fighting past the point the operational calculus supports. Whether that understanding influences the IRGC's current posture through his advisory access is the intelligence question the analyst community is processing alongside the boat imagery this morning. That question does not have a public answer yet, but the question itself is significant. Project Freedom Plus is the American operational answer. The deliberate ambiguity of plus is the counter to the IRGC's deterrence display. 130 boats in formation is a known quantity. The American defensive architecture has planned against it, partially engaged it on May 3rd, and has specific platforms and weapons to address it in detail. Plus is an unknown quantity. The IRGC must model its content without the information required to model it accurately. Project Freedom launched May 4th as a convoy escort operation, neutral commercial shipping through the strait, a humanitarian mission framed to make Iranian attacks on it diplomatically catastrophic, paused 48 hours later at Pakistan's request while peace talks continued. The plus attached to the resumed version extends beyond humanitarian escort to whatever additional operational elements the American force posture and theater currently includes. Strike options, covert operations, intelligence actions, direct action capabilities. The IRGC cannot define plus without knowing its content. 130 boats attempt to make plus feel deterred. The response imagery delivers the answer that plus is not deterred. The internet blackout inside Iran is the information dimension running parallel to the boat formation. 2 months old. The longest sustained communication suppression on record for any modern nation state. Millions of Iranians cut off for 71 consecutive days from professional communication, family contact, and economic participation. The IRGC is actively hunting Starlink users. Detection method: Identify the signal a Starlink terminal emits when activated. Dispatch teams to the location. Every Iranian citizen attempting to access accurate information about this conflict is making a personal security calculation about whether that access is worth the risk. The two-tier system operating inside Iran tells the complete story. Privileged connectivity for regime leadership and institutional elites. Complete darkness for the general population. The institution imposing the blackout is exempt from the blackout it is imposing. The population can observe that distinction even without internet access. The political conclusions that observation produces do not disappear because the information environment is controlled. They accumulate quietly under the surface. That pressure compounds alongside every other pressure the regime is managing simultaneously. The state media proclamations of unity between the government and the people, produced in the context of a system that grants the government connectivity and denies it to the governed, is the specific contradiction the blackout creates and cannot resolve. Unity proclaimed by an institution that decided its population does not deserve the same information access the institution itself retains is not unity. It is control, dressed in the language of solidarity. The 130 boats in the strait are the external display of an institution managing this internal contradiction simultaneously with the military pressure of an American force posture that has recorded 0 American losses across 71 days of engagement. These pressures are not operating independently. They are compounding against an institution showing its last naval card on the water, while fractures accelerate on land. The force picture on the American side requires stating directly. 15,000 American service members enforcing the blockade, up to 50,000 in the CENTCOM region altogether. Marines from the Marine Expeditionary Unit, with F-35B short takeoff and vertical landing aircraft. The 82nd Airborne Overhead Coordinating ISR Collection feeding the kill chain. 3 carrier strike groups. Over 100 combined land and sea-based fighter aircraft available for the specific mission of addressing the 130-boat swarm. Sentinel-2 documented near Qeshm this morning. The Sun Tzu formulation that 100 victories come from knowing your enemy and knowing yourself describes exactly what the morning's imagery exchange conducted in real time. Iran released its imagery to say, see our boats, calculate the cost. CENTCOM released its response to say, we already knew where the boats were before you showed us, and we know exactly what answers them. The DARPA XRQ-73 Shepherd drone announced May 6th, first flight completed April 2026 at Edwards Air Force Base, represents the next layer of the surveillance architecture being brought to this problem. Hybrid electric propulsion, flying wing design, 1,200 pounds, dramatically reduced acoustic signature, harder to detect by sound than any conventional drone currently in inventory. The combination of low acoustic signature, flying wing radar cross-section reduction, and hybrid electric propulsion enabling extended loiter without conventional thermal and acoustic signatures will make IRGC attempts to conceal coastal military infrastructure significantly more difficult going forward. The 130 boats that assembled under darkness and broke into formation at sunrise are the visual statement of what Iran has remaining on the water. The F-16s, F/A-18s, Apaches, A-10S, E-2D Hawkeyes, Global Hawks, and the Link 16 network targeting architecture connecting all of them are the visual statement of what answers it. That comparison is not symbolic. It has direct operational meaning. The CIA dimension is the element the imagery does not capture, but the operational picture fully includes. The covert capability to disrupt Iran's internal military communications, accelerate the economic destabilization the blockade is producing, target the IRGC's financial networks, conduct intelligence operations at the depth of penetration that previous documented actions proved possible, reaching into VIP protection units from insider-provided coordinates. This is part of what Plus encompasses without defining publicly. That ambiguity is deliberate. That ambiguity is the pressure. The boats are in the water. The platforms are in the air. The networks are linked. The GBU-72 penetrators are in weapons bays of aircraft that already know the coordinates of every staging area near Qeshm, because the Sentinel-2 imagery confirmed them publicly this morning. Project Freedom Plus is the answer to this morning's statement. The boats showed Iran's last card on the water. The response imagery showed what trumps it. In the operational planning discussions happening right now between the carrier strike groups, the regional bases, the Special Operations Command element, and the CENTCOM Operations Center that Admiral Cooper personally flew Apaches over before sending 6 boats to the bottom on May 3rd. The specific content of Plus is being finalized against the targeting picture that 130 boats in coordinated formation near Qeshm just provided in publicly available satellite imagery. The IRGC released its own targeting data. CENTCOM noted the coordinates. The F-16s are airborne. The Apaches are airborne. The F/A-18s are on combat air patrol. The 130 boats are in the water, and the prayer beads are out in every cockpit in those formations near Qeshm because the platforms that answer them are already in the air, and Plus is not being defined yet. The boats do not know what they are about to meet. The Apaches gave them a preview on May 3rd. 6 boats answered that question permanently. There are now 3 carrier strike groups. That math is being calculated in every fast attack cockpit in those formations right now. The answer to that calculation determines whether May 10th remains a deterrence display or becomes the opening of something neither side has fully defined yet. But the imagery has been released, the coordinates are known, and Plus is coming.